Tonight's guest is one of my cohort cousins. She is a radiant force in the world of wellness and personal development and purpose driven life. Iris, she is a coach, an educator, a self published author, a former psychotherapist with over a decade of experience guiding others toward alignment in both life and career. And this spans across people from all different walks of life, especially her students. With a background as a licensed social worker and a deep expertise in behavioral change, holistic health, and personal transformation, Iris merges evidence based practice with spiritual grounding. Her work beautifully integrates modalities like yoga and mindfulness and Reiki to help people slow down, something that we all need to do. We got to slow down a little bit, reconnect, and rise into your true divine calling. She is also the voice behind ILM Solutions podcast, which you see going across the screen right now. You're able to click on that link and see her podcast. And she is the author of several powerful resources, one which I have right here. I'm not sure if you can see because of the blur, because this is not my real living room. Oh, you can see it like
See a
that.
little
Here we
bit of
go.
it.
You can see a little bit right there. And this resource is called Healing My Four Bodies, the Self-Love Journal, and the Moon Journal, each designed to help others embark on journeys of self-inquiry, reflection, and healing. Iris is deeply committed to helping others unlock their fullest potential through intention, rest, and everyone knows I love a nap, and radical self care. Whether you're navigating burnout, craving alignment, or simply needing permission to pause, tonight's conversation is for you. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome in my cohort cousin, Iris. How are
Thank
you?
you. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me and for sharing this platform. I'm super excited. This is my official first live on LinkedIn. So here we are. So thank you.
Listen, it's going to be amazing. I'm so glad that you had the time to actually speak to me tonight because graduation, all of the things, all the end of the school year things. So I'm so glad that we were able to get on the schedule because honestly, this is a season ender for HealHer Conversations. We're not going to start back up with episodes until October. So you're ending the season for us. And I'm just thankful that you had the time to do so. Iris and I developed a great relationship from being in the United Way lead program since September. We spent every first Friday together from September until June. And that was amazing all day, field trips and case studies and all of the things.
Yeah.
And, um, being able to not only be a colleague with her, but then, tapping into her resources too has been amazing. Like I said, when I had my son go upstairs to get the book, it was sitting right under my Bible because that's where I hold it. Like it fits in that category. So I'm very thankful to have you on this show today. So, you know, real short and sweet. We get to the point.
Thanks
I
again for
love
having me.
Listen, I love being able to highlight women that are leading the charge for health equity because in this space, us women, especially us Black and Brown women, we have to be able to show what we're doing so that more people can be on just the journey to healing, the journey to seeing equitable healthcare. And I love what you are doing in the space of, psychotherapy to creating ILM solutions. Um, but what inspired that shift, and how do you work holistically with your clients throughout all of the things that you do?
That's a great question. I started off essentially in the psychotherapy, mental health, social work world. And in working with my clients and also ultimately working with myself, I pivoted more into the wellness space. And what I recognized ultimately is that talk therapy is essential and helpful. And you best believe I definitely have my own appointment lined up next week. But there may be other modalities for people. And this is what I saw in a lot of my clients, especially in my clients of various backgrounds,
Hmm.
because we had to tap into the deeper realm of the spirituality. And Sometimes that meant for me, intuitive things that came up in sessions. And sometimes that meant movement, yoga,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that there tends to be sometimes red tape, unfortunately, in these systems where those modalities are not seen as evidence based.
Yeah.
There are definitely more research in today's world where there's somatic therapy and somatic healing and things like that. But for me, I felt it was a different calling. And I also felt as a practitioner, personally, I'll say, my ears were taxed. I could not
Yeah.
unhear the things that I was
Was
hearing
hearing. Yeah.
unsee them. And what I noticed is that my clients were feeling the same about their own stories sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes we needed to work through that in a different way. And that could be a self inquiry question that they journal about on their own. That could be tapping into their own spirituality. So that's where the holistic aspect of it for me came to look at that person from that whole lens. I had to do that intuitively, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. So
Yeah.
it kind of all aligned. I think it was divinely led, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Because anytime that things are led by a higher power from God, whoever you worship or believe in, it's going to be in alignment. As long as you get into agreement with what you are doing. And I think that is so amazing that you are helping to support others with that alignment, and with their divine purpose. And also prioritizing their well-being. How do you support so many people in just this in these different spaces? I know you work with students, and then you work with people that are on their career path. How do you support them when it comes to just trying to figure out what their purpose is, and then still trying to be on that journey of healing and being well?
And that's a hard balance that I think we all are trying to perfect. And I
Yeah.
don't think there's a level of perfection. It's just a level of understanding where you are on your journey and what it
Yeah.
is that you need. I feel that with the clients that I work with, where when I'm working with them on, it can be something as simple as helping them with a resume or look for a job. Sometimes there's underlying imposter syndrome or doubt or
Mhm.
something else that's showing up, or maybe that toxic work experience that you once had that's blocking you from a greater purpose or your blessing, so to speak. You're in
Mhm.
your own way. And I think that with these tools that I've adopted in my own life, like mindfulness, self awareness,
Mhm.
self inquiry, being able to um, take a deep breath and pause, being able to ask, well, what's really showing up here?
Yeah.
That's going to get you to the next step to be able to apply to that job, to be able to know that
Mhm.
you're going to be confident in that interview. Like it all connects.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really believe that a lot of times we're not able to truly connect with those that we are either assigned to, or those that are given to us as students, or people that we are contracted to work with. We're not properly able to really just give them the tools that they need if we haven't lived through it ourselves, so to speak, just a little bit. It doesn't have to be all of the intrinsic details, and saying that you can actually identify with every single point in their life. But I really strongly believe, especially for people that are in like healing spaces, um, being on that journey of self discovery and being on that journey of healing yourself and seeing what it looks like, really helps you to be able to be relatable to those people that you come in, that you encounter in your practice, or you encounter in the workplace, or you encounter just by talking to someone, networking like we did in class. There's so many different people that I spoke to, that because we had one small thing in common, we were able to really navigate these different spaces. And I think that's so amazing, that a lot of people are able to do, especially you, when it comes to this book, Healing My Four Bodies. I always wanted to ask you, like, what inspired you to write this? And then also, did it play a role in your transformation of becoming who you are today, or still becoming? Because I strongly believe that every single day is a day for self-reflection and
Yeah.
to still be on that path of becoming. But what was your inspiration behind this piece of literature here?
So after graduate school, I did a wellness coaching certification, and I was heavy in the wellness coaching space. Then I got my yoga teacher training and all of that. I was doing primarily that work while also working on an ebook that was a wellness guide.
Mm,
The ebook was essentially going to be like 10 tips that you could go to. At that time, my primary focus was my physical health. I wasn't
yeah,
happy in my skin. I wasn't feeding myself right. I wasn't in the gym. And so that was what started the book essentially. That's how it was born. It was that guide, that ebook that I ended up having the manuscript collect dust for about a year or two,
yeah,
and during that year or two, I was going through my own journey, not just physically anymore. Recognized I needed support and got, mental health treatment or
hmm,
saw therapists. I started doing more yoga. I started to tap into what I identify as my spirituality and what that
yeah,
means for me. And
yeah,
so ultimately this book turned into that 10 tips of wellness guide. It turned into I think 6 chapters actually, of
hmm,
how I went through the journey of healing physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, but also primarily had the tips that I adopted over time, or that that I absorbed over time through my education or through my client's journey to be able to give this insight to people. I think the main thing that I want to highlight when it comes to healing overall is that it's a journey, and that
yes,
a lot of people want to focus on the destination and getting there. And it's not like you go in your GPS and it tells you you're going to get somewhere in 30 minutes and you're like, bet I'm going to get there in 25. You shouldn't do that. But
hmm.
um, that's how we navigate
Beat
the
the
healing.
GPS.
Right. We want to get to the end of the healing journey. And I think that's what I want to be that example for people, that it's always a journey. Just like you mentioned earlier, you're always every day being a better you in some way, shape, or form, right? Whether
Hmm.
that's self-improvement, self-development. Maybe it's not the thick work of mental health healing, right? Maybe it's something else. And
Yeah,
so for me, I am first generation. I am from Camden, New Jersey. English is my second language. This book was also a way to give back to my family in a sense, and give back to my
hmm,
people the tools and tips that I wish somebody would have just handed to me.
yeah. I think that's so amazing because a lot of times, um, I always say that the things that I did in the past and the lessons that I learned, I want to make sure that I pass it on to someone else because I wish someone would have told me,
Yeah,
a lot of those things that I had to unfortunately learn the hard way. And, healing is a journey. And no matter how you look at it, I don't think that we'll ever be completely healed because there's always something. Life is going to continue to life, and there's always a new thing. And you do want to evolve, you do want to grow. And you do want to continuously be in that space where you can be on that journey, but there is no hard stop.
right.
Yeah, there's no hard stop. And I think the more we come to realize that, the better we will be as a
It's
people. And
evolution.
not trying to, yeah, and not trying to scratch and survive all the time. We have to live.
Yeah.
We don't have to constantly always be looking to survive. We have to
Hmm.
live. And, as much as life be life and living that life and grow it to what you want it to be. And pull on the tools and resources so that you can ultimately see, a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And then two, always reach back and pull someone in. Like I love that you say that, you're from Camden, New Jersey, you're first generational college student, you're doing this for your family, for the people that look like you, for the little girls that are growing up in Camden, New Jersey, and they have black and brown skin and they want to be something different one day and they need someone to look at and they want to be inspired. And you are that inspiration because you did it and you got out, you know? And I think that that's amazing because we don't have a lot of those stories. And then sometimes we do have those stories, but we don't always have the people that are willing to go back and then also let someone know that you can do it too. that it doesn't just stop with me. Um, and that's the reason why I created this platform, just so that we can always be in the space of sharing, how we are leading the charge for health equity, but then also too, you know, helping other people get through what we've been through. You talk about your journey and how you began to write a lot of your resources and then how you got into practice. But, what advice would you offer women who are on the edge of burnout, who are called to be more purposeful in their careers and show up in different spaces, or in their communities in a purposeful way? Like, what piece of information would you offer them? Because I see you as a woman that is trailblazing, and I know there's many trailblazers that are going to be watching this broadcast. So what piece of advice would you give them, just so that they can stay in the space of continuing to go forth?
Thank you for that. And I think for me, especially for anyone in corporate settings watching, like be prioritize yourself as much as you prioritize the mission and the deliverables. And
Yeah.
I feel like we don't do that enough. We oftentimes actually my latest podcast episode was on how we tie our identity to our titles or our output and our productivity. And if we're not productive, or we're not measuring ourselves by a percentage, then we devalue ourselves in a way,
Yeah.
or our worth. And that right there is where we need to stop, especially for
Yeah.
women in leadership, because you are worthy, period,
Right.
regardless of the
Right.
title that you hold. Yes, you can still show up in your communities, but and in those spaces as that leader that you are, but you're never going to be able to show up as 100% for anybody if you never do it for yourself. And you also can't expect other people to put you or your ideas first if you don't put yourself first.
Exactly. That was great advice. And I think a lot of women need to hear that, especially us women in corporate who, deal with the deliverables and the analytics and all the things. You sometimes you can get lost in that title. Sometimes you can get lost in those duties as assigned, but you always have to look at it as, what's your purpose beyond that? Like, I've seen a lot of people that have retired from my job and in other places too. And I'm like, so what do you want to do? They're like, I don't know. All I did for 25, 30 years was this job. This was me. This was my title. This was the thing. I got up, I did it, and I went home. We have to get out of that
Yeah.
of just getting up, going to work, and coming home. There's more life to live. There's more purpose for you, and you just have to dig a little bit deeper to figure
Mhm.
out what that thing is. And I believe that, Iris, you have the tools and the resources to help our people do so. So
Okay.
I just want to make sure that you all are tuned in to, not only HealHer conversations on LinkedIn and Instagram, but then also look at Iris's link tree, which is taken across the screen right now, that is going to be able to show you all of her resources, her books, tap into her for all of the work that she does. And then, too, it gives you the link to her YouTube channel as well. And you can tap into that recent episode and just hear a little bit about what we're talking about. And it goes a little bit deeper. So I'm really appreciative that that alignment was
Mhm.
just purposeful, wasn't coincidence, wasn't happenstance. It's definitely lined up for a reason.
There are no coincidence. That's a whole chapter in my book.
Listen, absolutely. So listen, Iris, thank you so much. It's 9:20. I know the people are tired. Um, and everybody wants to go to bed. I'm not sure if you have more graduations to do or anything within the higher learning, but I know how it gets at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let you get your rest.
Thank you so
And
much for this opportunity, and for those watching, connect with me. And thank you. Keep doing
yes,
this, keep inspiring.
thank you so much, and have a great night, everyone. Till next time.